Hey everybody, it's Chris Eades, known as Wootini, here with another Gay Gamer video podcast. This week I went to the movies and I saw Conclave, which isn't normally a movie I'd go to the theaters for. Normally this is the kind of thing where I'm like, I saw the trailer and I'm like, oh, that looks interesting, but it's something, you don't need a big screen and surround sound. I could totally watch this on TV, it'd be fine. But there wasn't anything else out. And it's the kind of movie where I want to see, I'm like, oh, I'll watch that when it's, streaming somewhere. Except that when it does eventually come on streaming somewhere, I forget about it and there's other things to watch and then I never actually see it. So I was like, you know what? Let's go see it. Heretic can wait a week. And it was actually really good. It's a lot more compelling than you would expect a search for a new pope to be. Because, it's all crazy. So basically the Pope dies, and the cardinals all come together to vote on who's going to be the next Pope. And being a movie, it's, full of secrets and scandals and betrayals and all kinds of reveals and whatnot. And it's surprisingly compelling. The cast is stacked. Ralph Fiennes is amazing. And even though the nuns are like literally background and Isabella Rossellini only gets a few scenes, she does amazing with what she's given. And she actually has like an amazing mic drop that the whole audience was like, yeah. So that was fun. I have no idea if this is at all how they choose the new Pope. It looks very authentic, and I could believe that this is how they do it. It seems plausible enough. It's beautifully shot. It might be how they really do it. Obviously, the actual ending is completely not how reality would go, but it does make for a thought-provoking ending to a movie and book, because this is based on a book. So I recommend it. You don't have to go see it in the theater, but it was surprisingly compelling. As for games, I did not actually play a whole lot over the past week. Because of events in the real world, I was not really in the mood to play games, weirdly. I wasn't really in the mood for much, so what I ended up doing was watching a bunch of movies, because it's easier to just sit there and let the movie unspool before you. So, like, in keeping with the theme, I watched some dystopian movies. I watched Soylent Green, and then I watched 1984. But before I watched either of those, I made the mistake of watching The Remarkable Life of Ibelin, which came out on Netflix like a week or two ago. And I'd heard about it, and I wanted to see it, and I foolishly watched it the day after the disaster. So my, emotions were a little sensitive. And I probably shouldn't have watched it that day. I was not emotionally prepared for that. Basically, it's a documentary about a young man in Norway who has a degenerative muscle. He was born with a degenerative muscle disorder. So as he gets older, he grows weaker and weaker and his muscles fade away. So he's, fine as a little kid, then he's in a wheelchair, then he's in more of a wheelchair, then he can barely move. And he dies, and his parents think he died without knowing friendship or love, because he never went out, he didn't have friends, because he could barely do anything, and it was very sad. And then they discovered that he actually had a very rich and incredible life, because he was at his computer all the time. It was one of the few things he could actually, it was like honestly the only thing he could really do. He sat at a computer and he played World of Warcraft for hours on end. And they were stunned to discover that he had friends and he had known love and he had these relationships with people in the game that he couldn't in reality. And it's really well done. They use because they have all of the data from his game sessions, so they actually recreate the game. They recreate scenes from the game of him interacting with people using obviously much more polished animation than the actual game. But it sort of loses steam. Like in the midsection, it kind of goes a little off, but the ending was just, it's uplifting and heartbreaking at the same time. I was literally ugly crying for like the last 5 or 10 minutes and through the credits and after. So it's on Netflix, The Remarkable Life of Ibelin. I recommend it. It was good, but just be prepared, you might need some tissues, because it's very sad. But I basically, this past week, just the only games that I played were Animal Crossing and Disney Dreamlight Valley. Like, that's it. I just wasn't in the mood for anything else. I felt like I should be playing No Man's Sky, because in the past I've used No Man's Sky as like an escape from the real world, because it's very immersive and you could just go there and like do stuff. But I didn't want to, and when I thought about it, I guess it's because it's not the No Man's Sky. Like, No Man's Sky isn't the escape it used to be. Back in the beginning, it was amazing. You could just go, you could explore, and it was wonderful and very zen and calming and soothing, and it was a nice escape. But over the years, they've added all of these DLC that like has turned it into a proper game now, and there's challenges, and I'm like, I don't want to go and play No Man's Sky, because then I'll get stressed out because I'll get attacked by pirates, or like my settlement will be attacked by the sentinel drones, and I'm just like, I don't want to deal with that. I want no stress. I wasn't going to touch the quarry because that's all stress, because you're in a horror movie. So I basically just played Disney Dreamlight Valley. That was nice and simple, because Animal Crossing and Disney Dreamlight Valley, there's no challenges, there's no stress. It's very, very, very zen, and you don't have to try to do anything. You just do it. So I actually made quite a lot of progress in Disney Dreamlight Valley, because I was just running around doing errands and doing quests and whatnot. And I ended up, like, I think I finished the first part of the DLC for Eternity Isle. I don't know, because there were 3 parts, as I understand it, and but when I downloaded, they'd already come out, so I have all 3 all together now. So, but I feel like I finally got like all the pieces, and I got Jafar out of his castle, but then he betrayed me, but then everybody turned on him, and he was like, and he went and he hid in his castle. And there's still more to do, so I think now I'm beginning the second part of the DLC. But, I also, ran around, and I got, in the main valley, in the base game, I finally unlocked the Calico Rabbit. I'm almost done with all of the animals there. But then in Eternity Isle, I also ended up unlocking the classic capybara. And then because there was a quest where Eve wanted me to feed the monkeys, I fed the monkeys, and then I ended up unlocking the classic monkey. Now, these are just the classic versions that are the easy ones that are like always around. But there are a bunch of like rare versions of these animals, and I'll probably end up unlocking them at some point. But it'll be a while before I'm like, okay, let me write down when they're there and make a point of playing during those hours, late at night or early in the morning or whatever, because it's annoying. But I also one of the things in this DLC on Eternity Isle, there's a new mini game called Scramble Coin, which it's basically like, it's like a little chess game where you have 5 pieces, and you can choose 3 to put on the board, and then you can swap them out. Although I can't quite figure out how to do that. The controls are a little weird, and I'm not quite sure what I'm doing wrong, so I just sort of leave them there. And you basically, every character can move a different way, like in chess. So you basically move around the board, and you try to collect more coins than your opponent during the game. And then after a certain number of turns, it's over. And whoever has the most coins win. And it's a little complex, and I'm not very good at it. I don't have great pieces yet. But as far as mini games in games go, this is one of the least offensive ones, because I'm not usually a fan of these games. I'm also concerned that at some point during a friendship quest or a story quest, I'm going to have to play Scramble Coin, which is like annoying to make me play the mini game. But whatever. it's so I've just been playing Disney Dreamlight Valley. I've been doing nothing but and watching movies. So that's about it. That's all I really have to talk about because I didn't play anything else. Come back next episode and maybe I'll have played The Quarry again, or maybe I'll decide to try No Man's Sky and see if it helps. I don't know. You'll have to come back and find out. Bye!